Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever paid attention to the regulatory landscape, you probably know that the moment a medicine gets authorized in the EU, things don't slow down.
No, definitely not.
The compliance clock, it actually speeds up, right? The focus shifts immediately. It's less, can we launch, and much more, how do we guarantee safety basically forever?
The entire life cycle, yeah.
So today, we're peeling back the curtain on, well, arguably the most critical regulatory role in post-marketing drug safety over in the EU. It's high-stakes stuff.
Absolutely.
This person, they're the single anchor point for continuous patient protection, for regulator trust. Our mission today, to unpack the function, the sheer strategic weight, and importantly, the non-transferable responsibility they carry. Welcome to DDReg Knowledge Capsule.
In that single point of accountability, that's the qualified person responsible for pharmacovigilance, the QPPV.
It's QPPV, right?
Every single marketing authorization holder, the MAH operating in the EU, has to name one. And like you said, getting the drug authorized, that's really just the starting line.
Right.
The QPPV is the individual who makes sure that continuous safety monitoring, which is, a completely non-negotiable legal obligation, is actually happening every day that product's on the market.
Okay, so that immediately frames the QPPV as, well, way more than just a compliance officer ticking boxes.
Oh, much more.
They sound like a strategic leader, ensuring patient safety, keeping data integrity solid, and this is crucial, holding on to regulatory confidence, all through the drug's life cycle.
Exactly. They have to think globally, but ensure things are executed correctly locally, all while carrying, frankly, a huge amount of personal regulatory risk.
Wow. So they're almost the human face of the company's safety promise.
That's a good way to put it. The human embodiment of that promise to monitor safety.
Okay, so let's quickly anchor this in the regulations. For listeners who need the legal basis, where does this requirement actually come from? What's the framework?
Well, the role is deeply embedded in EU law. Primarily, you're looking at Directive 2001/83/EC and Regulation EU 726/2004.
Okay, the core directives.
Right. But the operational blueprint, the real how-to for the QPPV and the whole pharmacovigilance system, or PV system, that's laid out in detail in good pharmacovigilance practice. GVP, specifically Module 1.
GVP Module I. So that's their go-to guide.
That's their operational Bible, essentially.
Yes. So why this setup? Why mandate one single person? What specific regulatory needs does this address? Couldn't a whole department be the contact point?
It guarantees three really critical things. First, and maybe most importantly, ultimate accountability. There's a named individual who is responsible, period.
No diffusing responsibility.
Exactly. Second, it means immediacy and clarity. The European Medicines Agency, the EMA, and all the national competent authorities, the NCAs.
Yes. They have one direct, dedicated person to call for any urgent safety matters.
Okay, a single throat to choke, so to speak, though hopefully it never comes to that. Well, yes, but also a single reliable contact. And third, it guarantees that the benefit-risk profile of every medicine is constantly being monitored and updated in real time. It forces alignment between the company's actions and the actual patient data coming in.
So the QPPV is like the ultimate guarantor, constantly checking that what's happening in the real world lines up with the safety profile promised way back during authorization.
Precisely. They're the bridge between that regulatory promise and the ongoing patient reality.
And that bridge needs to be strong enough to withstand audits, I imagine.
Continuous audits, yes.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more then. If that's the legal why, what about the day-to-day? What are the core operational duties? I mean, these pharma companies are huge global entities. This one person must oversee some massive areas.
They do. You can really break it down into 5 key pillars. These define the scope of their responsibility, moving from system design and paperwork right through to proactive safety work and talking to regulators.
5 pillars. Let's walk through them. What's pillar 1?
The first is just massive. Oversight of the pharmacovigilance system. And this isn't just checking boxes. It's strategic. The QPPV is personally on the hook for making sure the entire system is robust, compliant, and always getting better.
Always improving.
Yes. That includes making sure there are enough resources, overseeing how adverse events are reported, the signal detection processes, how aggregate safety reports are generated, the whole shebang.
Oversight of everything. That sounds almost impossible. How do they maintain oversight when you've got teams and data centers scattered across, 5 or 6 continents sometimes?
And that's the core tension, isn't it? They have to delegate the actual doing of these tasks. They can't personally review every single case report.
Right.
But crucially, they cannot delegate the responsibility if the system fails. They manage this through, rigorous auditing, clear standard operating procedures, SOPs, and very well-defined delegation agreements that span the globe. The system has to work seamlessly end-to-end. If it breaks down anywhere, the QPPV answers for it.
Okay, that makes the second pillar absolutely critical then, because that's about documenting this incredibly complex global machine, right?
Exactly. Pillar 2 is the maintenance of the Pharmacovigilance System Master File, or PSMF. If the PV system is the engine, then the PSMF is like the detailed user manual, the complete maintenance log, and the proof of operation, all rolled into one document. The QPPV has to ensure this documented foundation is accurate, always up-to-date, auditable, and ready for inspection.
So pillar 1 is designing and running the system. Pillar 2 is meticulously documenting it. Logically, the next job must be finding problems before they blow up. What's pillar 3?
That's risk management and signal detection. This is the proactive piece. The QPPV supervises how risk management plans, or RMPs, are actually working out in the real world. Are the risk minimization strategies effective?
Are they doing what they're supposed to do?
Precisely. And they must ensure the signal detection process isn't just a tick-box exercise. It needs to be a truly effective analytical system that can spot new or changing safety concerns before the regulators or the public flag them.
Okay, that's finding the issues. Pillar 4 must be about telling people about them, the external communication.
You got it. Pillar 4 is regulatory reporting and communication. The QPPV oversees the timely, accurate submission of all the required reports, things like individual case safety reports, ICSRs, and periodic safety update reports, PSURs.
The bread and butter of PV reporting.
Absolutely. And they are truly the primary interface with the regulators. They manage communications with the EMA, with the NCAs, especially around emerging safety issues or urgent questions. If a regulator has a safety concern, the QPPV gets the call.
And that leads us neatly to the 5th pillar, which feels like the culmination of all the others, making sure everything holds up under pressure, particularly inspection pressure.
That's inspection readiness and continuous oversight. Pillar 5. The QPPV has to ensure that not just their central PV team, but all the global affiliates, all the critical vendors, everyone involved is constantly ready for an inspection at any time. This means rigorous oversight of CAPIA's corrective and preventive actions, making sure issues found are actually fixed, and ensuring the whole organization learns from every audit, every self-inspection, every mistake. It's about continuous improvement, driven from the top.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The logistics. This isn't just about being competent. There are strict rules about where this person has to be physically and the kind of authority they need within the company.
Yes, and these are non-negotiable. A real regulatory barrier, if you like. The QPPV must be physically residing and operating within the European Economic Area, the EAA.
So not just a contact number, they have to live and work there.
Correct. And they have to be permanently and continuously available to the MAH. If the QPPV goes on holiday or is unavailable for any reason, a properly qualified and delegated deputy QPPV, who also meets these requirements, must be formally in place and active.
Okay, permanently available. But again, given the scale, delegation must happen for day-to-day operations. If a deputy or a team in India is processing case reports, how do regulators actually check that the ultimate non-transferable accountability still sits squarely with that one QPPV back in the EEA?
Inspectors are very focused on this. They verify it by digging into the QPPV's actual knowledge and, crucially, their authority within the MAH. The guidance, the GVP, is very clear. The QPPV must have direct, unimpeded access to senior management, to the real decision makers.
So no layers of bureaucracy blocking them?
None. They must have sufficient authority and resources to ensure PV system compliance across the board. That includes the power to compel third-party vendors or internal departments to fix problems. If the QPPV tells an inspector, well, I tried to get affiliate X to change their process, but they wouldn't listen, that's a massive red flag. It means they don't have the necessary authority to match their accountability.
That makes perfect sense. And I think the PSMF requirement you mentioned earlier, Pillar 2, serves as a perfect litmus test for this authority and the company's overall regulatory maturity. What's the key takeaway that high-stakes nugget listeners need to remember about the PSMF?
It's the timeline.
Yeah.
It's speed, because the PSMF documents absolutely everything about the PV system, the structure, performance metrics, processes, quality system, everything. Regulators expect it to be available electronically or physically at the place where the QPPV operates. And they expect it to be provided to the EMA or any EU member state authority incredibly quickly, within 7 days of a request.
7 days. for potentially thousands of pages of detailed documentation.
7 calendar days,
Yeah.
yes. Failure to produce a complete, accurate, up-to-date PSMS within that time frame, that's often seen by health authorities as a fundamental failure of oversight. It can lead straight to critical inspection findings, potentially serious sanctions, or definitely more intense scrutiny and follow-up inspections. It really is the gold standard demonstration of being inspection ready.
Wow. Okay, the job description just keeps getting more intense. It sounds like it demands a really rare blend of skills. What specific competencies are truly needed to manage this workload, this pressure, successfully?
You're right, it's demanding. They really need to be true safety strategists. It's not just about knowing the science. It's combining scientific understanding, deep regulatory knowledge, and sharp strategic management skill.
All three legs of the stool.
Exactly. They absolutely need that deep, practical working knowledge of EU GVP and really all 16 modules, not just a passing familiarity with Module 1.
That's the whole operational playbook for PV, every rule about reporting adverse events, managing signals, delegation, quality management, inspections.
Everything. And beyond that regulatory fluency, they need real hands-on expertise in signal management techniques, sophisticated data evaluation, and designing and implementing practical risk minimization strategies. They need to be proficient with key EU systems, particularly vigilance for reporting, and understand RMP implementation inside out.
And leadership.
Critically important. They need strong leadership skills. Remember, they have to coordinate compliance across global teams, often cross-functional teams, in marketing, clinical, regulatory affairs, who likely don't report directly to them. They need influence, persuasion, and clarity.
Okay, so that's the ideal profile, the safety strategist. Let's do a reality check. Given that ideal, where do companies and maybe the QPPVs themselves most often stumble when the real world hits? What are the common pitfalls?
We definitely see recurring issues during inspections and audits. One of the most dangerous and surprisingly common is the outdated PSMF.
Still, after everything you've said about the 7-day rule.
Still, if an organization goes through changes, mergers, acquisitions, restructuring, even just significant IT system updates, the documented system described in the PSMF can quickly become inaccurate, almost fictional. That leaves the QPPV hugely exposed. Keeping it current requires constant vigilance and resources, which sometimes get pushed down the priority list.
I can see how that happens. What about the delegation point you made earlier?
Poorly documented delegations are another major tripwire, especially when working with external partners like contract research organizations or other vendors. Inspectors need to be able to trace the accountability chain clearly, from the QPPV right down to the person actually performing a specific task, like case processing or literature screening, if that chain is broken or unclear in the documentation.
The QPPV is responsible for the gap.
Correct.
I imagine resource constraints must be a sort of silent killer here, too.
Absolutely. It underpins many other issues. When PD departments or specific functions are under-resourced, oversight inevitably gets stretched thin. The QPPV might know there's a potential issue brewing in a local affiliate, for instance, but lack the bandwidth, or sometimes the internal clout backed by resources, to really investigate and compel correction effectively. And we also frequently see issues arising from siloed data, often between different international affiliates or different functional departments. If safety information isn't flowing quickly and smoothly to the central PV team, it can directly lead to delays in mandatory reporting, like those ICSR timelines. What starts as a logistical or data flow challenge quickly becomes a significant regulatory compliance failure.
So the underlying goal isn't just about ticking the boxes to follow the rules. It's about fostering a mindset of continuous improvement, preventing these issues proactively.
Exactly that. The biggest difference, often, between a PV system that struggles and one that excels under scrutiny is moving away from a purely reactive compliance mindset. The really effective QPPVs, they champion proactive measures. They push for frequent internal audits, mock inspections.
Testing the system themselves.
Constantly testing the system, identifying weaknesses before an inspector does. They ensure the organization is genuinely learning and improving. Because health authorities, during inspections, they specifically hone in on assessing the QPPV's personal knowledge of the system design, their handle on how it actually operates, and crucially, their oversight of how QPAs are being implemented and whether they are effective. They want to see that the QPPV is truly in control.
Okay, this has been fascinating, laying out the current state. But what does this all mean looking forward? How is this incredibly critical anchor role changing as technology? I'm thinking AI, machine learning, massive data flows really starts to permeate pharmacovigilance.
It's changing rapidly. The role is definitely evolving towards being far more digital and data-driven. Think about the sheer volume of real-world evidence being generated now, post-authorization. It's exploding.
From electronic health records, wearables, patient support
There's all
programs.
sorts of sources.
Yeah.
And the QPPV is ultimately responsible for ensuring that data is appropriately collected, managed, and interpreted for safety insights.
So how does that look practically? What skills does the future QPPV need?
Well, future-ready QPPVs will need to shift their focus. It's less about just overseeing data collection and more about overseeing data analytics. They'll need to understand and critically evaluate the integration of AI and automated tools into areas like safety signal analytics and maybe even aspects of report generation.
So understanding the algorithms.
Understanding their strengths, their limitations, their validation, this allows for potentially much faster identification of safety issues, which is great, but it also introduces new complexities around validation, quality control, and maintaining that essential human oversight.
Interesting. What else?
They also have a huge harmonization challenge. Global companies operate everywhere, but the QPPV has these very specific, non-negotiable EU obligations. So they need to ensure global PV activities are somehow aligned and efficient, while simultaneously ensuring their system meets every single EU requirement to the letter. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, global consistency versus specific regional compliance.
Exactly. And they really become the champions of safety culture across the entire global organization. They're guiding complex post-authorization safety studies, ensuring real-world data is used responsibly, and making sure technology serves to enable smarter, faster, and ultimately safer decisions about medicines.
It really sounds like the modern QPPV is evolving from maybe a compliance gatekeeper into more of a technology translator and a strategic enabler for the business. It proves that investing properly in this role, giving the QPPV the right resources and authority, isn't just a cost, it's truly an investment in compliance resilience and ultimately in patient protection.
Couldn't agree more.
So the key takeaway for everyone listening seems crystal clear. The QPTV is so much more than just a name on a form. They are the living embodiment of patient safety accountability for that company in Europe, and they're arguably the single most important figure for building and maintaining trust with the regulators in the EU market.
Absolutely. And that strategic importance, coupled with that ultimate personal, non-transferable accountability we talked about, that's where the really interesting future tension lies, I think.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. If the QPPV retains that ultimate non-delegable responsibility for the entire PV system, the PSMF, all the regulatory reporting, how might the increasing integration of AI and highly sophisticated automated signal detection systems challenge the traditional definition of the individual's knowledge that health authorities look for during an inspection?
Ah, I see where you're going.
If a sophisticated AI algorithm flags a potential safety signal, perhaps one that a human reviewer might have missed initially,
Yeah.
is the QPPV now accountable for understanding the intricacies of the algorithm, the quality of the input data, the validation process, or just the final human decision to act on the signal or not act? Where does their knowledge need to reside in that scenario?
That really does raise a critical question, doesn't it, about the evolving interface between deep human expertise and increasingly powerful automated intelligence, especially within a role that carries such significant legal accountability. It's definitely something for you, our listeners, to mull over as you think about the future of pharmacovigilance leadership.
It's the next frontier, I believe.
Thank you so much for diving deep with us today into the strategic complexity and critical importance of the qualified person responsible for pharmacovigilance. Really insightful.
Always a pleasure. Happy to talk about it.
Great. Well, until next time on The Deep Dive.